Welcome to Curious Goldfish, a podcast community where music and curiosity come together through interesting conversations with the music makers of our world. I'm your host, Jason English. You can find Curious Goldfish in all the major podcast and social media platforms, and of course, we have all of our content on our website, curiousgoldfish.com. Welcome to Curious Goldfish, a podcast community where music and curiosity come together through interesting conversations with the music makers of our world. I'm your host, Jason English. You can find Curious Goldfish in all the major podcast and social media platforms, and of course, we have all of our content on our website, curiousgoldfish.com. Julian, appreciate your time, man.
Appreciate yours. Thanks for the invitation.
No, it's a pleasure. So we're here in Nashville for Americana Fest. Do you have any specific goals or outcomes when you come to things like this, or is it more just to, perform and network?
I believe that we shouldn't have too many specific goals due to the fact that they usually don't come to fruition, and it becomes a little bit disappointing.
Yeah.
That being said, I think you should have specific goals so that they do not come to fruition and you aren't disappointed.
Okay.
But for me, it's about networking, meeting people, and mostly about trying to get a sense of what Music City is all about.
Okay.
Each and every conference that I've been to is different. Like Folk Alliance is usually in Kansas City.
Right.
And the history in Kansas City, the musical history is quite vast as well. In fact, in Kansas City, the very first AFM sort of hotspot and hangout that allowed black people and white people to be in the same room after their gigs basically created rock and roll.
Nice.
And Nashville's got such a rich history as well. It's interesting. We've been traveling around, and the city's kind of small, which is very surprising to me.
Yeah.
So it's lovely to get to meet people. People from back home are here too, so it's lovely to support them and them have me lend their support as well. So we're it's nice.
All right. Well, the Midwest gets a little bit of a bad rap for being kind of behind the times, but I'm from Missouri.
Is that right?
So I grew up 2 hours east of Kansas City. I think it's also home of the Hall of Fame for the Negro Leagues.
It is, yeah.
For baseball. So it's that's cool to hear that, the Midwest is sort of representing,
in their
progressiveness.
own strange way.
Yeah, that's awesome. So last night I had the opportunity to see you perform. It was really good.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess some of the songs you performed were off the new album that's supposed to come out end of September, right?
It's coming out in about a little while, like less than a week.
Maybe week from today, I think.
Is it?
Yeah.
You're
27th.
absolutely right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. It is, yeah.
So that's exciting. So how long have you been working on Pathways?
Pathways, about a year. Yeah.
Okay. And is that for you? Is that something where you have, I don't know how prolific you are in terms of writing, but is it 50 songs that come down to 10, or is it 10 to 12 and it's kind of the thing? I know some people differ in that.
Yeah, usually when I record, it's probably about 20.
Okay.
10 end up on the record.
Okay.
This time when I went into the studio, it was 10, and 8 ended up on the record.
Well, so in seeing you last night, here's what I took away, among other things.
I'm very curious to what you took away, yeah.
So, I'm happily heterosexual.
Oh, that's nice.
So, whatever. Whatever you want to be, what you want to be. But
I have no idea where this is going.
This is going to be a good one. I think you're going to like this. So, you're up there performing. I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy, he's got to be like the dream catch, because you're good looking. You're dressed to the nines. You play guitar. You sing like an angel. And you're like emotionally connected with yourself, because there's a couple of moments where
Depends on who you speak to. You know?
Well, no, but like guys are like whatever, pickup trucks and whiskey, and you're sitting here talking about lands and family, and you got emotional, right? And so I'm like, man, he's really connected. I know it's a stretch, but
yeah, I mean,
I took away from that, like, this guy is really like connected to himself. And
this is the heterosexual you talking?
Yes, okay. It is. Yeah.
Well, you'd be it would be when you date me, you'll realize that it sucks. Dating.
It sucks.
Yeah.
You're not all you're cracked up to be.
Nobody is, man.
That's true. Actually, that's a great point. That's a really good point. No, but have you always felt that connected, either the music, the lyrics, and last night there was a pretty decent crowd, and it felt
was
like
lovely.
It felt like you were like connected to the people that were there. Have you always been like that, or has that just evolved through the years?
I think I've always been like that. Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to music, for me, it's been sort of something that's been at my front door for a very long time, knocking on whatever, it's like, hey, Julian, we're here. We like, hear us, please. And the way I look at that is like, I think it's something from the other side, just, sort of making its way to this side, trying to find people to connect with and talk to.
Okay.
And use as conduits to talk to the others. Okay. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way I've always looked at it, even if I didn't know that as a child. Not many 4-year-olds are making up songs on the spot, sitting at a piano bench and doing that and asking their parents if they like this one.
That's right, yeah.
I don't actually know how that happened.
Yeah.
And that's the only way that I can sort of make any sense of it.
I think you've always been somebody that has a message, behind everything that you've done. Do you have an anecdote or two that is always top of mind in terms of people coming up to you? And it's one thing to sing and to send a message or deliver a message to people that are already kind of like-minded, but has anyone ever come up to you and be like, man, you've made me think differently about whatever, social justice or equality or anything like that?
Yeah, a lot of people have come up and said things like that. To be fair, it's really not my message. It's the universal message that's being pushed through whatever I'm doing and whatever I'm hearing. So I really can't take credit for it. I'm just listening the best that I can. I think that as a musician, as a writer, listening is one of the most important things that I do in terms of that spirit connection that we all share. But yeah, I mean, I'm confused as anybody else.
Doesn't seem like it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because your songs are very intentional.
They are intentional.
Yeah.
I'm intentionally confused about everything.
All right, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, that's good. So you mentioned all the work that you've done, the albums and everything. I guess as an artist, where are you at today in your mind? Whatever measurement or whatever context that is, and where do you want to be?
In terms of what?
It doesn't matter. It could be in terms of audience. It could be in terms of genre. It could be in terms of musicianship. I just like, how do you measure yourself, and like where do you think you're at today, and then where do you want to go?
Okay. It's a hard question because measuring ourselves is really can be extremely detrimental, and I'm a human, and we all do it probably every single waking second of our day. I recognize that I have to be careful and not compare myself to others. I also have to be careful not to compare myself to the idea of what I think is success. And that's a really hard thing to do because, of course, I mean, I would love to play to more people. I would have loved, after 30 years of being in this business, that I could sell a ticket with relative ease, and it's hard for me. It's hard for anybody.
Yeah.
Well, not anybody. There's some people who have no problem doing it, and for me, I have in the past been jealous of those people because I've thought, oh well, friends of mine and me, I think we're a little bit more talented than them. But then I have to think about that and go back and say, there's no such thing as judging talent.
Right.
People are connecting with people for a very good reason, and I have to look at that and say that's important and that's valid and it's a beautiful thing. And so really what I want is for all the people who have hopes and dreams, especially in this business, but in every sort of aspect of their life, that they attain those. I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting for myself. I wish that more people would do that. I exist in a very supportive musical community, and always feel like I have. I mean, when we're young, excuse me, sorry. When we're young, we lose sight of that. When we get a little bit older and our minds are certainly thinking clearer, we put that to the wayside a little bit, and it's fun to root for other people.
Yeah.
And when you root for other people, it's fun to see them root for you too.
Yeah.
No matter what.
So no, that's great.
My definition of success, well, I think 30 years in the music business is quite a feat. I don't know how long I'll be able to maintain that. It's changing very quickly.
Sure.
If I can't, then I won't. If I can, then I will. Music will always be a part of my life. And it's funny because knowing that and thinking that, that's exactly what I should set out to do. That should be the definition of success, and whatever comes with it. But you end up knocking on doors. You end up, doing this whole song and dance, no pun intended, to try to get yourself heard, to get out there, and it becomes a very unnecessary popularity contest, which is kind of bullshit. As long as I've been writing music, the good thing about it, they're called records for a reason. Each one of these records that I've created, there's 12 studio albums, a couple live albums. These are stamps in time.
Yeah, snapshots,
snapshots of my life. And anybody, including myself, can go back and sort of remember what those snapshots were all about. In fact, I have to go back all the time because I can't remember all the songs. Play that one. I don't know what you're talking about. And then I have to go back and relearn things that I've written, which is so bizarre, which also is evident and lays more claim to the fact that I have nothing and hardly anything to do with it. If I can't remember everything that's happened and I've done, it does mean that there's something else calling from somewhere else, bringing this forward. Yeah.
Probably an unfair question, but of all the things you've released, is there one that is the best representation of you, your family, your experiences, or are they truly, it could be Pathways, which comes out next week. That could be like the best representation because it's today.
It's the best representation of me now. Last summer when we were famous by my old band Stagger Crossing was the best representation of me in 2002. The Ridge was the greatest representation of me in 2020, and Beyond the Reservoir, and so on and so forth. So no, absolutely not. Like I said, they're called records for a reason. So this
podcast that I do, it was inspired by Ted Lasso. I don't know, did you watch Ted Lasso?
I've only seen it on an airplane.
So it's, if you watch soccer or football or whatever you want to call it, it's more than that.
Football. Let's call it football.
Let's call it football. All right. I appreciate that. But this, I have a corporate job, and this is sort of a passion project.
Right.
Because that show sort of changed.
I need a corporate job. I'm just kidding.
If I could sing and play like you, let's switch. We could switch jobs because, that's.
I probably wouldn't be such an asshole if I had one.
I don't know. There's plenty of that. Going around. But I started this because I was inspired by the positivity of that show and this whole notion of curiosity. Right. I think curiosity is underrated in relationships, in corporate world, etc. But again, after 30 years, today, what are you most curious about?
What am I most curious about? Wow, good question. I'm curious whether or not we're going to make it. To be honest with you, every day I think about that. It doesn't always feel like we are.
Yeah.
And then you get glimpses of real, incredible gifts and things that the human condition, experience, and heart and soul can give. And I think it's about giving more so than anything else. I think it's about growing together and giving to one another that will help us get through whatever it is that we need to get through. But it is quite daunting to see humans and their state of being and how they are with each other, how they are with themselves. It's rather peculiar, and I'm very curious as to what is going on with us.
It feels like we're kind of regressing a little bit, right?
It does feel like that. I mean,
Yeah.
for example, there was this lady today, and I don't know what to call her other than a person without a home, someone who is down and out on their luck, who came up to us today and was wanting food, asked for food. Literally had just gone to a food stand and had a sandwich in my hand, and when she asked for it, I was like, absolutely, you can have mine. And she didn't take it. And that was a moment that was rather peculiar to me. I'm curious why and how we're going to make it when the very simple ask was, I'm hungry and I need food. And I turned around and said, okay, here, have mine. And she wouldn't take it.
And she refused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very odd.
That is peculiar.
It is.
Well, so can we focus on the positive? So,
Sorry.
so last night though, in your performance, you
Life sucks. Humans are shitty.
No, it's a real thing, which I'm going to kind of come back to. But when you were talking, it reminded me of the anecdote you told last night about the Paralympic.
Sure.
So there's glimpses of hope.
Yeah, there are glimpses of hope, and I'm curious as to whether those, glimpses of hope and those wonderful pearls will help us get through it. I have faith.
Yeah,
I do, but I am curious.
Okay.
Because there are moments in every single day that make me go, what is happening to us?
Right.
What's happening to me? Why are the things that I value deferring from what I should actually value? It's a haunting sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, probably related. I am curious. I'm curious about you being Canadian and what the general sense of the American system is. Is it entertainment for you guys? Is it a joke? Is it what's the general feedback?
No, Canada's just as bad.
You think, really?
Yeah. It's just as bad.
That's shocking. All right.
It shouldn't be. What do you think of us? You think that we're all squeaky clean?
I mean, it's not as, I don't know. It's
just as bad.
Is it? Really?
Maybe even worse.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Maybe even worse. I mean, what was it? I think it was Robin Williams who said that, Canada was the apartment above the meth lab. But those fumes have made their way.
There is some osmosis
to
going
the
on.
apartment upstairs from the meth lab.
All right.
So yeah, North America is a mess.
All right. Well.
But there's positives.
Yeah.
I love coming to the United States, and like I said, the rich history in Nashville. Musically, I'm such a fan of music that this is such a beautiful place to come to and explore.
Yeah.
And it gives, it's a nice thing. It really makes you check yourself, and it inspires you, and you're like, wow. And we went to go see My Morning Jacket and Nathaniel Ratcliffe the other day.
Nice.
And I was like, man, I got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
I've got a lot to do. I got to work on my craft.
Wow. Well, so back to the Paralympics anecdote that you told. What song was that related to again?
Just a little bit.
Is it on the new album? Or
no,
that's
it's
an older one.
It's an older track from my album, a double record that I put out called Desert Star.
Okay.
Under the moniker Julian Taylor Band. It's the first song on that record.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's an older tune.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite.
Yeah. The story's great.
Thank you. I don't usually tell the story.
Yeah, that was awesome that I heard that.
I thought that I might. But that's what inspired me.
Yeah. So there was a race. Halfway through, someone fell down.
Yeah, and they all stopped.
And everybody stopped, came back, and picked that person up.
Yes.
Yeah, that was great. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, so can we talk about the new album?
If you'd like.
I would love to.
Okay. I hope it's not as depressing and sad and shitty as everything else I've been talking about.
We're in Nashville. It's fine. All right. So keep me honest, but some of the themes, because I got a preview, which is great. personal introspection, the complexity of love, social justice, and resilience in the face of adversity.
All of those are true. Yeah.
Is that anything else that I may have missed?
No, those are probably. I always have some sort of imagery of nature in my music as well. This record doesn't touch on it as much because I was trying to pull away a little bit and save myself a little bit of energy. And when I say that, it's like Beyond the Reservoir was a record that I really felt like I was defending myself and my identity. And that's for and basically that's the way I felt when I was growing up as a teenager. It was like, who the hell am I and why? And people sort of asking that too and trying to defend myself and make sense of that all. This record, I'm trying to make sense of what's in my head all the time. Resilience is always in my head. I think it's part of my life. It's part of my lineage in my life history and my family's life history. So it's always going to be there.
Yeah.
And there's always a thread of hope tying the room together like that carpet in the Big Lebowski. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, so see this thing through.
Yes.
You say, I ain't breaking. I'll keep pushing. I'm going to see this thing through. Was there an anecdote or a thing that was the context or backdrop for that?
I think so. I wrote that song with a friend of mine, Dave Engel, who also plays keys in the Julian Taylor band. And he is also a person who has been in the music industry for a long time and has been stomped on, and like a lot of us. It's no fairy tale where when it comes to what's happened to me and some of my friends in the music industry, for sure. Nobody really, except for maybe like one or two people that I know have put out a record, then all of a sudden went like this. Everybody else was, slugging through the trenches.
Just grinding.
Yeah. And it ain't easy.
Yeah.
But he and I share that commonality.
Okay.
And for me, I every single trip that I've made to a music hub gives me a tiny bit of, like I said, inspiration, makes me want to work harder. Los Angeles is like that. New York was like that.
Right.
Maybe it will be again.
Right.
But LA is another one. London, England. Every time I walk into a place where these things sort of existed for real.
Yeah.
Not to say that they don't come out of Canada or anything, because they do. There's the Canadian sort of mindset and determination does come through. We've got some great acts that have pushed through, and most people don't even know they're Canadian. But walking the streets of London or LA and just seeing that, Nashville, it's like, I gotta go. I gotta keep going.
You were just in London, right?
I was, yeah. It does give you that sort of, I'm here. I can do this too. Yeah.
That's my favorite city.
London is?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I go there a lot for work, and I like it because everybody speaks the language, so it makes that easy. But getting around the tube, because my last name's English.
Oh.
So I feel at home. But if I go to Paris, I don't speak French, and they look at me and they look at my name, and it's just like literally go away. And so I feel at home in London.
I'm happy for you.
Yeah, no, it's good. All right, so Complexity of Love. There's a song called Love Letters. The lyric is love letters through the ages, how they made them swoon, like Vita wrote to Virginia and Johnny wrote to June.
They're two lovers, Virginia Woolf and...
that's Virginia Woolf. That's right. That's Virginia Woolf. Yeah.
Again, nice. On this record, there was a lot of co-writes. So my friend Tyler Ellison, myself, wrote that song together. Love Letters is really about the fine art of actually writing a love letter. I don't think this generation does that as much. I do remember doing it as a kid, even in high school, like you liked someone and you had to write it down and you were too scared to actually go up to them and be like, I dig you. But it was easier to write a letter and... How
about your letters were great?
I don't know. I would love to see them. They're probably crap.
No. You were probably ahead of your time.
Well, I'll tell you what. Some of the letters worked, so maybe.
Of course they did. All right, so two more I just want to hit. So Sixth Line Road.
Yeah.
I think this is like a social justice themed. This is pretty like direct, I think, right? If you want it and deserve it, you shouldn't have to beg and plead. if you earn it and deserve it, so why'd they cut him down at the knees?
Yes, so this is a quote, actually, inspired by a quote that I heard Herb Carnegie say. Do you know who Herb Carnegie was?
No.
Herb Carnegie was one of the first Negro hockey players.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. And there's a beautiful documentary on him because he was one of the best hockey players in the world at his time. But he couldn't get a break. And they wouldn't allow him to play in the National Hockey League because of the color of his skin. But he was one of the greatest hockey players that ever lived.
Wow.
Ask people look up Herb Carnegie.
Okay, yeah.
And there's a specific quote, I believe it was Conn Smith, who was the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs at the time.
Okay.
Going back to show you that Canada's no better in terms of the racism, in terms of what they've done to the poor and their economic decisions and whatnot. But this was a racial issue where he blatantly said straight to his face, "You'll never play on this team. You'll never play in this league because you're black." And that Herb Carnegie's comment to that was like, it felt like they just cut me down at the knees. Yeah. He did end up playing for the New York Rangers for a little bit, but then decided that he wouldn't because his salary was so low compared to the rest of the hockey players on that team as a result of the color of his skin.
Yeah.
They paid him a pence.
Yeah, that's shameful.
Yeah. So that's what inspired that song.
Yeah. Have you experienced anything like that in the music industry? That blatant and that overt?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I don't really need to go too far into it. But one time, I remember sitting and playing at an open stage. I was signed to Warner Music a long time ago when I was a kid, and a lot of the people there, there's no slouch against any of the record companies on my part. I realized that, at the time, I did have a lot of animosity towards the major labels because I had been dropped as a youngster and thought that my chance had been taken away from me and things like that. And a lot of times it has nothing to do with you, right? I mean, I realized later on in life that every single person in that building that has been employed by this company is trying to feed their family, is trying to do something that they love, and I got over that. But I do remember my first band was I was the black singer and the white guys in the band, and we got compared to, Counting Crows and Hootie and the Blowfish all the time, which was something that really didn't make a lot of sense to me. I felt that from a systemic sort of, way.
Sure.
But I was playing a open stage, and one of the old people that had worked in that building came in, and it was so interesting. I played a Smokey Robinson song, and got off stage, and was hanging out a little bit, and saw that person, and we chatted for a bit, and then the person turns to me and says, "I didn't know that you could play black music." And I just went, "What?
What does that even?
What does that even mean? Do you see who you're talking to?
What is that?
What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I've faced it a lot.
Yeah.
I think that being black, and I'm also part First Nations. I was always growing up. I was always told not to tell anybody that I was, but I am. And it was hard not to tell anybody that I was black, so I had to deal with that.
Yeah.
I guess, I've said it before, on Beyond the Reservoir, that record's heavy because I think as a teenager I didn't want to be either. There was no friggin' way. There's a really interesting thing at the Smithsonian. If you go there, there's a book that people get to sign, and it says, it's like a wish book. What do you wish for? And in the book, Miles Davis just wrote, "I wish I was white." That's Miles Davis.
I mean, really?
I know. Dude, you're amazing.
Yeah.
You probably got over it.
Yeah.
Who knows?
All right.
I know we did. We love you, Miles.
All right. Well, yeah, that's.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Life sucks.
No,
It's so hard.
Well, in the spirit of this conversation, the last one I want to ask you about is called weighing down. But this is good. It's you've been so hard on yourself. It's time to let things soften now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I don't know if this is related, but last night when you were performing, again, you said, the biggest obstacle that I have is myself.
Isn't that true for all of us?
Yeah, exactly. And for this, it's like, we can be very, very hard on ourselves.
I am.
Yeah. And so I love that, because life's hard, work's hard. The music industry is obviously hard. All the stuff that you've just talked about it's ridiculous. My hope is that we can, and this is again kind of the spirit of this podcast, I hope we can have a little bit more self-care and just kind of take it easy,
self-care,
right?
and care of others. I mean,
Yeah.
because I'm hard on myself and because I'm my own worst enemy, I end up taking it out on other people inadvertently too.
Right.
Which is not fair.
Right.
And that's hard. And then you walk away feeling even worse about yourself.
Seriously.
But life is hard. Everything's hard. I have a joke about that all the time. I mean, I was just in Great Britain and touring with the band that I tour with there, and we're in the band and stuff. I'm like, why is everything so hard? And literally, I was only trying to open like a sushi packet, like of soy sauce.
Oh my gosh!
And it was so hard.
Yeah, it's slippery and everything. Yeah.
And then the other person across from me is trying to do the same with like a packet of pretzels, and we're like, oh my god, everything is so hard.
Yeah.
Oh man, I wish they told us that in the beginning. I would like easier to open soya packets, please. Can we just start there?
That could be in the wish book.
It is in the wish book.
Yeah.
That's what I would write.
Yeah.
Forget I don't want to be white. I just want
That's right.
easier to open soya sauce packets when on demand.
You deserve that, actually.
I think we all do. That's one way to start healing the world.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Julian, congrats on the new album.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate your time, and I'd love if you played a song.
Yeah, sure. I will do. I'll do.
All right. Thanks, Julian.
On this path, as we get closer, I'll be there as we grow older. From beginning to end, we make and lose friends. There's so many pearls to gather. From the first thing we see to the last thing we need, it's the life in between that matters. All the warmth that you bring, darling, these things are the wings that we all chase after. And on this path, as we get closer, I'll be there as we grow older. And when you need me, here's my shoulder. Be grateful, be kind, be gentle, take time. Remember, we're in this together. So let's just be who we are, cradle our hearts, and dream that love is forever. And on this path, as we get closer, I'll be there as we grow older. And when you need me, here's my shoulder. And on this path, as we grow closer and closer, as we go closer, as we go closer.
Don't you know that it's the strangest thing? So many edges and so many changes, and on this path as we get closer, I'll be there as we grow older. And when you need me, here's my shoulder. And on this path as we get closer and closer, as we get closer, as we get closer, and we get older, here's my shoulder.
So good. Thanks, man.
Thanks, guys.
So
it was
good.
a bit out of tune. I don't know if that
It
matters.
sounded great to me. Jeez. So good.
Why is it out of tune? Come on now. It was, yeah, that note.
Yeah, it sounded
It was just that note. See, it sounds better now, right?
good. Don't overthink it, man.
Okay.